First contact. The night sky erupted in a brilliant flash of light, followed by a thunderous boom that shook the windows of the Millbrook Observatory. Dr. Elena Patel, hunched over her computer analyzing data from distant stars, nearly fell out of her chair. Her heart raced as she rushed to the telescope, adjusting its focus to track the blazing object hurtling through the atmosphere. "What on earth?" she muttered, her dark eyes wide with a mix of excitement and disbelief. The object was unlike any meteor she had ever seen. Its trajectory was too controlled, its speed fluctuating in a way that defied natural phenomena. As it disappeared behind the tree line of the nearby forest, Elena knew she had to investigate. Grabbing her jacket and a flashlight, she sprinted to her old, beat-up Jeep. The tires kicked up gravel as she sped down the winding road towards the forest. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could it be a satellite, a top-secret military craft, or something else entirely? As she neared the estimated crash site, the air grew thick with an acrid smell, like ozone and burnt metal. Elena parked her Jeep and continued on foot, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The forest was eerily quiet, save for the occasional crackle of burning underbrush. Then she saw it. In a small clearing lay a craft unlike anything humanity had ever created. Its sleek, silvery surface seemed to absorb and reflect light in impossible ways. It was roughly the size of a small bus, but its shape was fluid, almost organic. Scorch marks marred its hull, and a faint blue glow pulsed from within. Elena approached cautiously, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. As she neared the craft, a section of its hull suddenly liquefied, forming an opening. She froze, her flashlight beam fixed on the entrance. A figure emerged, and Elena's world changed forever. The alien, for it could be nothing else, stood slightly taller than an average human. Its body was covered in what appeared to be a form-fitting suit that shimmered with an iridescent sheen. Its head was elongated, with large almond-shaped eyes that reflected the flashlight's beam like a cat's. Where a human would have a mouth, there was only a small vertical slit. For a moment, neither moved. Then the alien stumbled, clearly injured from the crash. Without thinking, Elena rushed forward to help, her instincts as a doctor. She had originally trained in medicine before switching to astrophysics, taking over. As soon as she touched the alien, it recoiled, emitting a high-pitched sound that Elena felt more than heard. She stepped back, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said softly, knowing the alien probably couldn't understand her words, but hoping her tone would convey her intentions. The alien tilted its head, studying her. Then, to Elena's shock, it spoke. The words were garbled and heavily accented, but recognizable as English. Human. Why? Body. Fire. Elena blinked, trying to process what she had just heard. "I'm sorry." "What?" The alien's body shuddered, and it rubbed its arms as if cold, despite the warm summer night. Inside. Burning. "What?" "Doing to me." Realization dawned on Elena. The alien was experiencing some sort of physical reaction to Earth's environment. Maybe it was the atmosphere, the gravity, or even the planet's electromagnetic field. Whatever the cause, it was clearly causing the alien distress. "You're having a reaction to something here," Elena explained, speaking slowly and clearly. "I'm a scientist. I can help you, but we need to get you somewhere safe. There will be others coming to investigate the crash soon." The alien seemed to consider her words, its large eyes blinking rapidly. Finally, it nodded, a surprisingly human gesture. "Trust. You. Help." Elena let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Okay, good. Can you walk? My vehicle is nearby." As they made their way slowly through the forest, Elena's mind raced. She was about to hide an alien in her observatory. If anyone found out, she'd lose her job, possibly face criminal charges. But the scientist in her, the part that had always dreamed of this moment, knew she couldn't pass up this opportunity. "What's your name?" she asked as they neared her Jeep. I'm Elena. The alien made a series of clicks and whistles that Elena knew she'd never be able to replicate. Seeing her confusion, it then said, "In your sounds, Zaxlor." Zaxlor, Elena repeated. "All right, Zaxlor, let's get you out of here." As they drove back to the observatory, Elena glanced at her alien passenger. Zaxlor was huddled in the seat, still shivering despite the warm air. Its eyes darted around, taking in every detail of the unfamiliar environment. "Why? Help?" Zaxlor asked suddenly. Elena thought for a moment before answering. "Because it's the right thing to do, and because I've spent my entire life looking up at the stars, wondering if we were alone in the universe. Now I know we're not, and I want to learn everything I can." Zaxlor was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Dangerous. My people. Not all. Kind." A chill ran down Elena's spine at those words, but she pushed her fear aside. "Well, then, we'll just have to show them that humans can be kind. That we're worth knowing." As they pulled up to the observatory, Elena saw Zaxlor studying her intently. She hoped she had made the right decision. Whatever happened next, she knew her life, and possibly the fate of humanity, would never be the same. The first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon as Elena helped Zaxlor into the observatory. She quickly locked the doors and drew the blinds, her heart pounding with the realization of what she was doing. "Okay," she said, turning to face her alien guest. "Let's figure out what's happening to you, and then we can work on getting you home. Deal?" Zaxlor nodded, its alien features set in what Elena hoped was determination. Deal. And so began the most extraordinary day in human history, not that the rest of the world knew it yet. Hidden refuge. The sun had fully risen by the time Elena finished setting up a makeshift examination area in the observatory's basement. She had transformed the rarely used storage room into a secret alien infirmary, complete with medical equipment she'd borrowed from the university's biology department. Zaxlor sat on a folding table, its iridescent skin glistening under the fluorescent lights. Elena couldn't help but marvel at the alien's biology, so similar to a human's in some ways, yet profoundly different in others. "Okay, Zaxlor," Elena said, pulling on a pair of latex gloves. "I'm going to run some tests to figure out why you're feeling, well, on fire. Is that all right?" Zaxlor nodded, the gesture becoming more fluid with practice. "Proceed, Elena Human." As Elena began her examination, she couldn't help but ask the questions that had been burning in her mind. "So, Zaxlor, what brought you to Earth? Was it an accident, or—" The alien was quiet for a moment, its large eyes blinking rapidly, a sign, Elena had learned, of deep thought or emotional turmoil. "Mission," Zaxlor finally said. "Observe. Assess." Elena's hand froze halfway to her stethoscope. "Assess? For what purpose?" Before Zaxlor could answer, a sharp knock echoed from upstairs. Elena's heart leaked into her throat. She glanced at the clock. 8:30 a.m. Right on time for Dr. Patel. "Are you in there?" The muffled voice of her research assistant, Mike, came through the door. "Just a minute," Elena called back, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. She turned to Zaxlor, speaking in a hushed whisper. "Stay here. Don't make a sound. I'll get rid of him." Zaxlor nodded, shrinking back into the shadows of the basement. Elena rushed upstairs, smoothing her rumpled clothes and running a hand through her disheveled hair. She opened the door, plastering on what she hoped was a normal smile. Mike stood there, a stack of papers in his hand and a concerned look on his face. "Dr. Patel, are you okay? You look rough." Elena forced a laugh. "Late night. You know how it is when you're chasing stellar anomalies." Mike nodded, though he didn't look entirely convinced. "Right. Well, I brought the data analysis from last night's observations. And, there's something else." Elena's stomach tightened. "Oh." Mike lowered his voice. "There are some government types sniffing around. Something about an unidentified object entering the atmosphere last night. They're asking if we saw anything unusual. For a moment, Alina felt like she couldn't breathe. She forced herself to shrug casually. Probably just a meteor. Nothing unusual about that. That's what I thought, Mike said. But they seemed pretty insistent. One of them, a guy named Agent Hawkins, said he'd be stopping by later to ask you some questions personally. Alina's mind raced. She needed time. Time to help Zaxlor. Time to understand why it was here. Time to figure out what the hell she was going to do next. Thanks for the heads up, Mike. Listen, I'm in the middle of some delicate calculations. Why don't you take the day off? I'll call you if I need anything. Mike looked surprised, but didn't argue. If you're sure. Thanks, Dr. Patel. Try to get some rest, okay? As soon as Mike left, Alina rushed back to the basement. Zaxlor was exactly where she'd left it, but its skin had taken on a worrying bluish tinge. Zaxlor, what's wrong? Alina grabbed her medical scanner, cursing its limited ability to understand alien physiology. Air. Heavy. Zaxlor gasped. Gravity. Crushing. Alina's mind whirled. Of course, Earth's atmosphere and gravity were likely denser than what Zaxlor was used to. Its body was struggling to adapt. She needed to create an environment more like its home planet, but how? An idea struck her. Hang on, Zaxlor. I have a plan. Alina raced to the observatory's main lab, gathering every piece of equipment she thought might help. An oxygen concentrator, a gravity simulation platform used for testing satellite components, even the small pressure chamber used for plant experiments. Over the next few hours, Alina worked feverishly, cobbling together a makeshift alien life support system. She adjusted oxygen levels, tinkered with the gravity simulation, and fine-tuned atmospheric pressure based on Zaxlor's reactions. Finally, as the alien's breathing eased and its color returned to normal, Alina allowed herself to relax slightly. Better? She asked. Zaxlor nodded, its movements more fluid than before. Much. Thank you, Alina Human. Your ingenuity is impressive. Alina smiled, feeling a burst of pride. That's humans for you. We're pretty good at improvising. Her smile faded as she remembered the looming threat. Zaxlor, we need to talk. There are people coming. Government agents. They're looking for you, or at least for your ship. I need to know the truth. Why are you here? Zaxlor was silent for a long moment, its alien features unreadable. Finally, it spoke. My people, considering Earth, for colonization. The word hit Alina like a physical blow. Colonization. You mean invasion? Not necessarily, Zaxlor said, its words careful. Assess first. Peaceful integration possible. But if humans prove unsuitable. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. Unsuitable. What does that mean? Before Zaxlor could answer, the sound of a car pulling up outside reached them. Alina's heart raced as she peered through a small window. A black SUV had parked in front of the observatory, and a man in a dark suit was stepping out. They're here, Alina whispered, fear and determination warring within her. She turned to Zaxlor. Whatever happens next, whatever your people's plans are, I'm going to protect you. But you have to trust me, and I need to be able to trust you. Can you do that? Zaxlor's large eyes blinked slowly. Yes, Alina Human. Trust, given. Alina nodded, squaring her shoulders. Okay. Stay here, stay quiet. I'll handle this. As she climbed the stairs to face the government agent, Alina's mind whirled. She had an alien in her basement, a potential invasion looming over humanity, and no idea how she was going to navigate the challenges ahead. But one thing was clear. The fate of two worlds now rested, at least in part, on her shoulders. With a deep breath, she opened the door to face Agent Hawkins, ready to protect her alien guest, and perhaps the future of human-alien relations. Whatever happened next, Alina knew her life would never be the same. The real challenge was just beginning. Unexpected alliance. Alina's heart pounded as she faced Agent Hawkins, a stern-faced man with a buzz cut and piercing blue eyes. His gaze seemed to bore into her, searching for any sign of deception. "Dr. Patel," he said, his voice clipped and professional. "I'm here to discuss the anomalous event from last night. May I come in?" Alina forced a smile, stepping aside. "Of course, Agent Hawkins, though I'm not sure how much help I can be." As they settled in her cluttered office, Alina silently thanked her years of poker nights for honing her ability to keep a straight face. Hawkins pulled out a tablet, swiping through images of radar data and satellite footage. At approximately 2:37 a.m., our systems detected an object entering Earth's atmosphere, Hawkins explained. Its trajectory and speed were unusual. "Did you observe anything out of the ordinary during your observations last night, Dr. Patel?" Alina shook her head, hoping her nervousness came across as mere confusion. "I'm afraid not, Agent Hawkins. Just another quiet night of stargazing." Hawkins leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Are you certain? Because we have reason to believe that the object crashed somewhere in this vicinity. Any information, no matter how small, could be crucial to national security." Before Alina could respond, a loud crash echoed from the basement. Hawkins was on his feet in an instant, hand reaching for his concealed weapon. What was that? Alina's mind raced. Probably just some old equipment falling over. "This place is practically held together with duct tape and hope," she laughed nervously. But Hawkins wasn't buying it. He moved towards the basement door, his hand on the doorknob. "I'm going to need to check that out, Dr. Patel." Time seemed to slow down for Alina. In that moment, she made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Wait," she called out. "There's something you need to know." Hawkins turned, eyebrow raised. Alina took a deep breath. What crashed last night? It wasn't a meteor or a satellite. It was a ship, an alien ship. For a moment, Hawkins just stared at her. Then, to Alina's surprise, he chuckled. "Dr. Patel, if you're trying to throw me off the scent with some sci-fi story." Another crash from the basement, followed by a distinctly inhuman sound. Hawkins' smile vanished, replaced by a look of shock and disbelief. "It's not a story," Alina said quietly. "And I can prove it. But first, I need you to listen to me. And I mean really listen. Because what I'm about to tell you affects the entire human race." Over the next hour, Alina explained everything. Finding Zaxlor, learning of the potential colonization plans, and her efforts to understand and help the alien visitor. As she spoke, she led Hawkins to the basement, where Zaxlor waited, a mix of fear and curiosity in its large eyes. Hawkins, to his credit, took it all in stride. His training kicked in, pushing aside his shock to focus on the potential threat. "So, we're facing a possible alien invasion," he said, his voice grim. "Why haven't you alerted the authorities before now, Dr. Patel?" Alina gestured to the makeshift life support system she built for Zaxlor. "Because I needed time. Time to understand, to show Zaxlor that humans are worth knowing, worth saving. And I think it's working." Zaxlor stepped forward, its movements still somewhat awkward in Earth's gravity. "Alina human speaks truth," it said, its English improving by the hour. "My mission, reassessment necessary. Humans, surprising." Hawkins looked between Alina and Zaxlor, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed, rubbing his temples. "This is way above my pay grade. I need to contact my superiors." "No," Alina and Zaxlor said in unison. Alina continued, "If word of this gets out too soon, before we have a chance to properly communicate, it could lead to panic, to violence. We need a plan." Hawkins opened his mouth to argue. But at that moment, all of their attention was drawn to a small device on Zaxlor's wrist. It had begun to pulse with an urgent red light. "What is that?" Hawkins demanded, tensing. Zaxlor's alien features contorted in what Alina had come to recognize as distress. "Warning, it said, its voice filled with a new urgency. Fleet. Approaching. Decision made. Earth. Targeted. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Alina felt her breath catch in her throat. Targeted? You mean? Invasion. Hawkins finished, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, the basement was silent save for the soft beeping of Zaxlor's device. Then, Alina straightened, a determined glint in her eye. No, she said firmly. We're not going to let that happen. Zaxlor, you've seen what humans are capable of. You know we're not just some primitive species to be conquered. Help us. Help us stop this. Zaxlor was quiet for a long moment, its large eyes blinking rapidly as it processed Alina's words. Finally, it nodded. Yes, we'll help. Humans, worth preserving. Hawkins looked between the human scientist and the alien, his training warring with the unprecedented situation. Finally, he nodded, decision made. All right, what's our next move? Alina took a deep breath, her mind racing. First, we need to alert world leaders, but carefully. We can't risk causing global panic. Then we need to gather Earth's best scientists and strategists. If we're going to face an alien invasion, we'll need every brilliant mind we can get. And me? Zaxlor asked, its alien features set in what Alina hoped was determination. You, Alina said, placing a hand on Zaxlor's shoulder, are going to teach us everything you can about your people's technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. You're our secret weapon. As the gravity of the situation settled over them, Alina couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement amidst the fear. This was humanity's greatest challenge, but also its greatest opportunity. They were about to take their first steps onto the galactic stage, ready or not. Let's get to work, she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. We have a world to save. And so, in a basement observatory in Millbrook, an unlikely alliance was formed. A human scientist, a government agent, and an alien scout, united against a common threat. As they began to plan Earth's defense, Alina couldn't help but wonder what other surprises the universe had in store. Whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity was about to show the cosmos what it was made of. The battle for Earth. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Alina, Hawkins, and Zaxlor worked tirelessly, coordinating with world leaders, top scientists, and military strategists. The observatory became the heart of Earth's defense efforts, its computers humming day and night with simulations and plans. Zaxlor proved invaluable, providing insights into the invaders' technology and tactics. Coraxians, it explained, referring to its own species, rely heavily on energy weapons and force fields, but vulnerable to electromagnetic disruption. Alina's eyes lit up at this information. EMPs, she muttered, her mind racing. We could use high-altitude nuclear detonations to create an electromagnetic pulse. It wouldn't harm organic life, but it could disable their ships. Hawkins nodded, impressed. Good thinking, Dr. Patel. I'll relay this to our military contacts. As the days passed, tension mounted. Earth's governments worked in unprecedented cooperation, pooling resources and setting aside old rivalries in the face of a common threat. Massive EMPs were prepared, along with conventional weapons modified based on Zaxlor's information. Then, on a crisp autumn morning, it began. The sky lit up with streaks of fire as the Coraxian ships entered the atmosphere. Their sleek, silver crafts, far larger than Zaxlor's scout ship, descended on major cities across the globe. In New York, Paris, Tokyo, and dozens of other metropolises, people looked up in awe and terror as the alien vessels hovered overhead. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then, chaos erupted. Energy beams lanced down from the Coraxian ships, shattering buildings and scorching the earth. Panic spread through the streets as people fled, seeking shelter from the otherworldly assault. But humanity was ready. High above the earth, nuclear devices detonated, sending out waves of electromagnetic energy. The effect was immediate. Caraxian ships faltered, their energy weapons flickering out. Some lost power entirely, plummeting from the sky. "It's working," Elena shouted, watching the feeds from various battle sites. Beside her, Zaxelor's eyes were wide with a mixture of shock and admiration. However, the Caraxians were quick to adapt. The larger ships managed to restore power, their force fields shimmering back to life. The battle was far from over. Around the world, humanity fought back with everything it had. Fighter jets engaged in dogfights with Caraxian fighters, while ground forces used modified weapons to penetrate alien shields. In the chaos of battle, acts of incredible bravery and ingenuity emerge. In London, a team of hackers managed to infiltrate a Caraxian ship's systems, causing it to crash into the Thames. In Rio de Janeiro, civilians used mirrors and reflective surfaces to redirect Caraxian energy beams, buying time for military forces to respond. At the observatory, Elena, Hawkins, and Zaxelor worked frantically to coordinate global efforts. Zaxelor's knowledge proved crucial, allowing Earth's forces to anticipate Caraxian tactics and exploit weaknesses. "Elena human," Zaxelor said suddenly, its voice urgent. "Caraxian command ship. Approaching." Elena's heart raced as she looked at the data. A massive vessel, easily 10 times the size of the others, was descending towards Washington, D.C. If it reached the ground, the devastation would be catastrophic. "We need to stop that ship," Hawkins said, his voice grim. "But how? Our EMPs are depleted, and conventional weapons barely scratch their shields." Elena stared at the screens, her mind whirling. Then her eyes widened. "Wait. Zaxelor, you said Caraxian ships use a form of quantum entanglement for communication, right?" Zaxelor nodded. "Correct. Allows instant communication across vast distances." "What if," Elena said slowly, her excitement building, "we could use that against them? If we could introduce a quantum anomaly into their communication network, it could cascade through their entire fleet," Hawkins finished, catching on, "disrupting their systems from the inside out." Zaxelor's alien features contorted in what Elena had come to recognize as deep thought. "Possible," it said finally, "but dangerous. Requires direct access to command ship systems." Elena took a deep breath, determination settling over her. "Then that's what we'll do. Zaxelor, can you fly us up there in your scout ship?" Zaxelor hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but may not survive." "It's a risk we have to take," Elena said softly. She turned to Hawkins. "Agent, I need you to coordinate things from here. Keep the world's forces fighting. We'll do our best to end this." Hawkins looked like he wanted to argue, but instead, he simply nodded. "Good luck, Dr. Pottle. Give him hell." As Elena and Zaxelor raced to the repaired scout ship, the sounds of battle echoed in the distance. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, resting on the shoulders of a human scientist and an alien defector. The scout ship lifted off, streaking towards the massive Caraxian command vessel. As they approached, dodging energy beams and debris, Elena couldn't help but marvel at the situation. Here she was, about to attempt a daring mission to save Earth, alongside an alien she now considered a friend. "Zaxelor," she said as they neared their target, "whatever happens, thank you for choosing to help us." Zaxelor's large eyes blinked, a gesture Elena had come to associate with emotion. "No, Elena human. Thank you for showing Caraxians better way." With that, they plunged towards the command ship, ready to make their final stand for Earth's freedom. The battle's climax was at hand, and the future of two species hung in the balance. A new era, the Caraxian command ship, loomed before them, a colossal structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. Elena's heart raced as Zaxelor skillfully maneuvered their small scout ship through a barrage of defensive fire. "There," Zaxelor said, pointing to a small opening in the ship's hull. "Maintenance access. Can enter there." Elena nodded, gripping the quantum disruptor device they had hastily constructed. "All right, let's do this." With a bone-jarring thud, their ship docked with the command vessel. As they prepared to disembark, Elena turned to Zaxlor. "You don't have to come with me. This isn't your fight." Zaxlor's alien features set in what Elena now recognized as determination. "Is my fight. My people. My responsibility." Together, they entered the massive ship. The interior was a maze of pulsing conduits and shimmering energy fields. Alarms blared, and the sound of approaching Correction soldiers echoed through the corridors. "This way," Zaxlor said, leading them towards the ship's central core. "Quantum communication hub there." They ran, dodging energy blasts and weaving through confused Correction crew members. Elena marveled at the advanced technology surrounding them, even as she worked to sabotage it. Finally, they reached the core, a massive chamber filled with swirling ethereal light. At its center stood a crystalline structure, pulsing with energy. "That's it," Elena breathed. "The quantum entanglement node." As she moved to plant the disruptor, a booming voice filled the chamber. "Enough." They turned to see a Caraxian, larger and more ornate than the others, flanked by armed guards. The Caraxian commander. "Zaxlor," the commander said, its voice tinged with disgust. "You betray your people for these primitives." Zaxlor stood tall, placing itself between Elena and the commander. "Not betrayal. Evolution. Humans, worthy of respect. Of alliance." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Foolish sentimentality. They are resources to be used, nothing more." Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite her fear. "You're wrong. We may not have your technology, but we have something just as powerful: adaptability, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit. We won't be conquered." For a moment, silence reigned in the chamber. Then, the commander raised its weapon. "Your spirit will break, human, along with your world." Time seemed to slow. Elena saw the weapon charging, saw Zaxlor moving to shield her. In that split second, she made her choice. With all her strength, she hurled the quantum disruptor towards the entanglement node. The device struck true, latching onto the crystalline structure. The high-pitched whine filled the air, building to a crescendo. "No," the commander roared, but it was too late. The quantum disruptor activated, sending waves of disruption through the Caraxian communication network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Energy fields flickered and died. Weapons systems went offline. Across the Earth, Caraxian ships fell from the sky, powerless. In the command ship, chaos erupted. Elena grabbed Zaxlor's arm. "We need to get out of here." They ran, dodging panicking Caraxians and exploding conduits. They barely made it back to their scout ship before the command vessel began to break apart. As they sped away from the disintegrating ship, Elena looked out at the Earth below. The Caraxian invasion had been stopped. Humanity had prevailed. In the days that followed, the world began to rebuild. The defeated Caraxians, cut off from their homeworld, and with their technology in shambles, had no choice but to surrender. To everyone's surprise, it was Zaxlor who proposed a solution. "Caraxians can help rebuild," it suggested. "Work alongside humans. Learn from each other." And so a new era of cooperation began. Under the watchful eye of a newly formed Earth Defense Council, Caraxian survivors began to integrate into human society. Their advanced knowledge, tempered by human creativity and adaptability, led to unprecedented technological leaps. Elena found herself at the center of it all. As Earth's foremost expert on Caraxian culture and technology, she became a key figure in shaping human-alien relations. One evening, months after the invasion, Elena stood with Zaxlor on the observatory's roof, watching the sunset. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" she asked, gesturing to the city below where humans and Caraxians now worked side by side. Zaxlor's large eyes blinked in thought. "No," it admitted. "Caraxians always sought to conquer. Never considered friendship. Elena smiled. Well, that's humanity for you. We're full of surprises. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Elena felt a sense of wonder and anticipation. The universe was vast, filled with unknown civilizations and challenges. But after facing down an alien invasion, she knew humanity was ready for whatever came next. So, she said, turning to Zaxlor with a grin, "What do you say we take that scout ship of yours and do some exploring? I think it's time Earth made its official debut on the galactic stage." Zaxlor's features shifted into what Elena now recognized as a smile. "Agree. Universe not ready for humans. But we'll learn." As they planned their journey to the stars, Elena couldn't help but feel excited for the future. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger, more united, and ready to take its place among the cosmos. The invasion had been the end of Earth's isolation, but it was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. And Elena, along with her unlikely alien friend, would be at the forefront, leading the way into a new era of exploration, discovery, and interstellar cooperation. The story of humanity's first contact may have begun with fear and conflict, but it had transformed into something beautiful, a testament to the power of understanding, adaptation, and the indomitable human spirit. As Earth looked to the stars, it did so not in fear, but in hope, ready to forge its own destiny among the cosmic tapestry of alien civilizations.